So you just got a high school diploma. What the hell do you do now? Let me give you a little bit of advice and wisdom to that end. And if you are older and more experienced than a young person, or you have advice, please give it in the comments below. I'm always interested in other people's perspectives and their wisdom. And if you're a young person, the best piece of advice I can give you for your entire life is listen to those who have experience. Listen to those who are more experienced than you. They have things of value that they're giving to you for free. If you can take the wisdom that they've gained through hard-fought experience and apply it, you're gaining the benefit of their life experience without having to deal with the hardship of that. And that is extremely valuable, more valuable than you probably realize when you're young. You don't have to figure everything out for yourself. Other people have done it before you, and you should listen to them and consider their perspective if you want to have good outcomes in your life. Let me give you my perspective before I jump into the advice or who I am. I've been an educator for quite some time, and I've taught at pretty much every level you can think of, including the university level. I've dealt a lot with people who are 18 to 22, and so that informs a lot of what I have to say. I've also been out in the real world. I've worked in industry. I haven't just spent time up in the ivory tower of academia decreeing what the peons ought to be doing. My first job out of high school was at a chicken plant where we slaughtered chickens. We take white chickens, chop their heads off, and turn them into nice, tasty fillets for people to eat. And I've also worked in refrigeration, and I've been in the trucking business a little bit. So I've done a lot of things, and that's also informed my experience a little bit. If you're young and you just got out of high school, I know there's a lot of people on the channel who are kind of in that category and think about what they want to do. The first decision you have to make is, should I go to college or not? And that's a really big decision. It's a hard one to make. I'm going to try to give my concise advice on that. The first thing that you have to consider whether or not you're going to go to college is whether you need to at all. Most jobs in the United States do not require a high school degree. They may require specific skills, but they don't require a high school degree, which means that most people don't need to have one. College is not appropriate for everyone, and it doesn't have to be a path to success because there are very high value professions that don't require a college degree. There's lots of people who have a college degree, make $15 an hour, and pay a plumber $80 an hour to come fix whatever's wrong in their house. And so you have to keep that in mind. Trade skills can be very, very valuable. So you don't need to go to college to be successful. There's that idea. I know our culture right now is pushing for everyone has to go to college. Everyone has to go to college. They're like, if we somehow got everyone into college, that we'd have like magically more economic opportunity for everyone, or our economy would magically improve because people who have college degrees tend to work these higher paying jobs. They're like, well, everyone can have the higher paying job. It's like, it doesn't really work that way. Nor will most people really be able to graduate from college without you significantly lowering academic standards. And that's probably another conversation for another video, whether academic standards have declined. But anyway, you don't need a college degree to be successful. That is not true. You can be as successful, if not more successful, than lots of people with college degrees with other specific valuable skills. So we have kind of a skill-based economy now. You can go find skills that are valuable, apply them, and you'll be pretty well off. You kind of have to also make a decision about what your material comfort level in your life you desire is, and that will also inform what you want to do in college. But before we even get to like majors, you have to decide, is the cost of college going to be worth it to you? And there are two costs to consider with college. There's the direct cost, the tuition cost, the cost of living to a certain extent, and books. There's the direct cost, and then there's an opportunity cost going to college. The direct cost, that's fairly easy to compute, and a lot of schools will give you like a straight rundown of tuition, living expenses, and all that kind of stuff, so you can look at how much the school costs. If you go to somewhere like USC, you may be looking at a $150,000 degree, which means that whatever you get with that degree has to increase your earning over your lifetime by a minimum of $150,000 in current dollars for it to be valuable and worthwhile for you to pursue. On the other hand, you also have the opportunity cost, which you need to take into account. The opportunity cost is the cost of not doing something else. Basically, that's what that means. So while you're in school studying, you're not in the workforce making money right away. And you're not in the workforce gaining the skills while you make that money that's going to increase your economic output later on. So when you graduate at 22 and you go get a job, you may find that another 22-year-old who went straight into the workforce is making a lot more money than you. That's because there's an opportunity cost involved with college, and you have to take that into account. And I had my education was paid for by scholarships, right? I didn't really pay for my education. But there was an opportunity cost, and I didn't really consider the opportunity cost, or I might have possibly made a different decision about what major I had. I have a music degree, and I pursued that end, and I didn't pay for it directly, so I considered it a free education. But if I had perhaps thought in more three-dimensional terms, it might have been more worthwhile to pay for a higher value degree. So you have to keep that into account as well. Opportunity cost is a big one. The next thing you have to decide is what your current capacities for academic engagement actually are. So whether you want to go to a university or what we in the United States tend to call a junior college, which is basically a two-year degree option instead of a 4-year degree option. And then you can go from the junior college to the regular university. And I've taught at both those levels, by the way. I've taught at junior college and at university. So you have to make that decision. If you're somebody who kind of just wasn't super interested in high school and kind of squeaked through, graduated but not with a really good GPA, the university might be too much of a step up from your experience for you to have a really easy time with it and a fun time with it. A lot of people want to go straight onto the university because they believe in this myth of a college experience with like parties and that kind of stuff. And I encourage you to avoid thinking of college that way. College is an investment in your future. It's not just a place to party for 4 years. If you party for 4 years, you're going to be paying for it for the rest of your life with those big loans. That's another thing I should mention before I go on. The loan aspect. Please avoid taking out too many loans. If you can avoid taking out loans altogether, that's going to be much more valuable to you than the comfort will be in the here and now. There's a lot of companies out there that make student loans. Student loans in the United States do not go away when you declare bankruptcy. You have to pay them forever, no matter what, because there's no collateral on that loan, and that makes sense to me from the lender's perspective. There's no collateral on the loan, so I need to be guaranteed that I'm going to get paid. But at the same time, if you have a loan that you're guaranteed to, no matter what, it will always be paid in one form, unless the person dies or is somehow destitute for their entire life, which is probably not going to happen. You're going to want to get a lot of people to take out those loans. So when you hand an 18-year-old somebody who's 18 is not. And I don't want to insult anyone who's 18 and watching this. When you're 18, you don't have a ton of life experience to consider all those kinds of costs. And so when somebody's saying, here, make this giant economic decision, and they hand you a piece of paper and you sign it and they give you $10,000, you'd be like, well, that's cool. I guess I could just take out loans and do this. That may not be a really good idea. Avoid taking out the loans if it's possible to do so. I actually think it's better to work part-time and pay for your living expenses and still finish school on time, of course, than it is to take out loans and try to live off those, because you don't need this giant albatross around your neck when you join the economic workforce of having to pay like $500 a month or something to a loan company when you are starting out. Like that's a big burden, and I would prefer, if you're young, to not have to deal with that. So that's the loan advice. Now, junior college or 4-year university. If you're going to a 4-year university, I would say it's a good idea if you know exactly what you want to do and you know the program that you're trying to enter into. If you are an undeclared major at a 4-year university, I do not think that that's the best place for you to explore things. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, the high direct cost. The opportunity costs at a junior college and a 4-year university are basically the same, but there's a high direct cost at a university that may end up being burdensome if you choose to not pursue a 4-year degree. You decide that college isn't for you, and it's okay for it to not be for you. So if you're undeclared at a 4-year university, you're making a decision based on what's available in a location you've decided on, not on a program you've decided on. If you've decided that you really like this particular program at this university and you want to get a degree in it, then you go there and you do it, rather than saying, well, I'm going to go to this university because I like the university, and you take courses and then you end up like in a program that may not be exactly what you want. There's a lot of reasons that I don't recommend going into the university experience as an undeclared major. And most of those have to do with the fact that you're not making specific decisions with all the relevant information intact. And the other one is that you may decide that college or university is not for you. The other thing is, if you're one of those people from high school that, like I said, you kind of squeaked out, a four-year university is going to be a big step up from high school in terms of what's expected from you. And that will make the sort of skill jump, the study skill jump, quite significant. A lot of people are not prepared for the increase in study skills that's necessary to be successful at a university level from their high school education, which tends to not be very rigorous these days in the United States, at least. So please keep that in mind. Be realistic with yourself. If you're a person who didn't really have to work hard in high school or kind of squeaked out, the university is might be too big of a step up. You might find yourself overwhelmed. And I always recommend taking like less classes when you start off rather than more. The last thing to consider with a university, going straight into a university, is that initially a lot of your classes will not be taught by like tenured professors. A lot of times those early freshman classes are taught by graduate students who don't have any teaching experience. They might be a first-year teacher trying to teach you how to do something. And I think a lot of people in the comments, you can certainly justify this, have this experience where they've had like a person teaching a lab, like a science lab, who was like a 23-year-old graduate student who didn't speak English and couldn't teach them anything. Teaching's a skill set. There's a skill set involved with teaching. And I know I made this video like, teachers are overrated, and I do think they are. But at the university, you're going to be having to do a lot of self-teaching because those early teachers are just not going to be very skilled at communicating that information to you. You're going to deal with a lot of graduate students. I know at some schools, even for music, you may be learning with a doctorate student or a graduate student for several years before you get to study with a full tenured professor and expert at your instrument. And that's quite a bit of time to sort of lose there. Now, junior college, I think that's a much better option for most people, because if you don't have a clear idea of like, I want to be, I want to major in civil engineering. If you're not that kind of person, I want to be a doctor. If you're not have this clear idea of what sort of profession you want to pursue, a junior college is a much cheaper and easier way to explore what possibilities are. First of all, there's no minimum course load requirement at most junior colleges, unless you're receiving some sort of like financial federal aid that requires you to be enrolled in a certain number of units. But I wouldn't worry about that kind of stuff. You could take one class or two. I usually recommend, if you are really wondering, I don't know what I want to do, go to your junior college, take 3 classes based on their description in the course catalog and how interesting they look to you. Don't worry about general education, because if you're coming out of the high school experience, general education is more of the same. So if you didn't like high school and you go and you're like, well, I'm just going to go to college and work on my general education requirement, well, you're just going to have more of the high school experience, and that's going to drain you and make you want to drop out. But if you take specific courses that look very interesting to you, that are teaching skills that maybe you want to learn, and there are, at a junior college, there's skills-based classes. You could take classes towards a welding certification and acquire some very, very valuable job skills. Having done a little bit of fabrication myself, I can say that those skills are in very high demand. Welders can charge quite a bit of money if you're very skilled and you have skill with specific kinds of welding. So you could go take a class in welding, or you could take a class in like criminal justice, or you could take a philosophy class. I do recommend philosophy as a great enrichment. Start with your enrichment rather than with your general education, and you may find that you're very, very interested in a particular subject that you didn't expect because it's not taught in secondary school. You don't learn anthropology really in secondary school, and you don't learn philosophy. There's a million things you don't learn. So getting to take those courses will be very, very valuable. And at the end of that first semester, if you take those 3 classes in 3 different areas, you'll have an idea of, first of all, you have an idea of whether college is for you based on that experience, and you won't have lost a lot of time and money. And you'll also have an idea of like, maybe I might be interested in more of this field, and you can explore again in your second semester. So I recommend exploration if you don't have a clear idea of what you want to do. That's going to have a lot less costs associated with it than going straight on to a university and floundering. Because what you don't want to do is you don't want to take out all those loans. You don't want to do all this work and then not complete a degree and still have to pay back the loans. That would suck, and I don't want you to have to deal with that. So think about that. So let's say you decide, given all these things, I don't want to go to college. Well, now you need to think about what you're going to do in the workforce. And my best advice for that is just get experience. Try to do your best working in a field that you think is interesting. And you can acquire the skills that you need along the way. So, my first job, I said, was at a chicken plant where we slaughtered chickens. Well, they trained me to drive a forklift, and that forklift certification got me jobs later on. And so I had a valuable job skill that increased my economic earning potential later on in other kinds of work. And you'll find that when you join the workforce. Even working a place like McDonald's. People often make fun of people working at McDonald's, but it's not a bad job, and you learn a lot of business skills working at McDonald's. You learn not just how to cook food, but you learn how to satisfy customers, how to take somebody who's upset about something and like mitigate that upsetness and satisfy them. You learn math. You learn the costs associated with running a business, the overhead, keeping the lights on. You learn how to manage other people, how to make sure that you're being efficient. If you work as a cook, you know how to do things efficiently, which is a skill. That means you can transmit that skill to others if you want to have that business. I think fast food is actually a really cool industry to learn a lot of entrepreneurial and business skills. I wouldn't look down on it at all. So you could get a job doing that and learn things. You could get a job in industry starting out. And just really, you have to beg for your first job. And your first job usually sucks. I worked in 120 degree heat in a very foul smelling place, but you have to think later on, and you make the money now and you're making more money later on. You find those skills that are going to be valuable. Find the specific skills that you would like to apply in the world that interest you, and that is going to increase your economic output as well. The last sort of thing that I will address is what you can do in college in terms of your major and what sort of market value is associated with that. So if you're going to college and you're choosing a major, everyone probably knows this advice, but you need to think about the value of the degree you're pursuing in terms of what the market wants. And I made a video a while back about should I get an arts degree, and my general advice is not to get an arts degree. And the reason for that is that an arts degree doesn't carry market value. It carries only as much market value as any other bachelor's degree does at like the minimum level. Like you have a bachelor's degree. That's like the minimum. Like, oh, you have a bachelor's degree. Cool. Like that's the minimum level of that for an arts degree. Like by arts, I really mean like, English composition, music, visual art, or, film, those sorts of things. Now, so they don't carry a lot of market value. Like a music degree is not going to get you a job at a bank. Right. That's not going to get you a job doing something highly valuable in and of itself. The other thing about the market value of an arts degree is that it doesn't have market value in the field that you have gotten the degree in. So a music degree doesn't really mean anything in the music field. People only really care about how well you play or how well you apply your specific skills. Now, you do get those skills, a lot of those skills in the degree program, but the degree itself doesn't really have market value. So you have to keep that into account. You're paying a direct cost, you're paying an opportunity cost to then acquire something that has a fairly low market value. So if you are going to go to college, I do recommend that you try to choose something that you think will have a high market value and that's something that you're interested in, because if it's something you're not interested in, you're probably not going to be successful studying it. But if it's something you're interested in and it has the potential for creating some good economic benefit for you later on, that's a good idea. Business degrees, I'll mention business degrees quickly. I don't think business degrees are super valuable either. If you come out with a business degree, what a lot of businesses kind of want, they don't really care about your business degree as much as they care about like who you are as a worker. They're like, okay, you have a business degree. Let me tell you, the paper business is nothing like any business that you've studied in school. And that's true. Every business has its own things associated with it. So whenever you go into the workforce and you are studying business and you have a business degree, you're going to be learning about a new business in every single different business you work at. Every business is different. And the business degree is like a general set of knowledge. It's not that it's worthless, but it's not as valuable as people think it is. They think, I'm going to get this business degree and I'm going to go make money in business. It's like, it doesn't work that way. You have to start from the ground up in a business and really learn how to be great at that business before you're able to produce a lot of value in it. So there's a little bit on business. Business degrees are not quite as valuable as people tend to think they are. The most valuable degrees are going to be those that are associated with very specific and very valuable skills. So the STEM field stuff is where you're really going to get your value. If you have a degree in mechanical engineering, that is specific and valuable. If you have a degree in computer engineering, that is specific and valuable. If you have a degree in computer programming, that is specific and valuable. Things that are not specific and valuable are things like women's studies. Women's studies, there's no application of women's studies. If you're applying your computer engineering degree, you're designing a computer or a computer system, right? There's specific applications for those specific skills. That's where the value is, because the market has a very easy understanding of what knowledge you have based on that certification, and that's going to be a lot easier to produce high economic output, especially early on. Once you get done with your degree, you can find a fairly decently paying job right off the gun, and then your earning potential will only go up as you acquire even more skills working in the workforce. So that's most of my advice that I have for that. To summarize, you have to make a good decision about whether you're going to go to college based on the costs involved with it and whether or not it's appropriate for you. If you are going to go to a junior college, I recommend a junior college if you need to explore academia before you commit a lot of time and resources to it. I recommend you look at things that are interesting to you rather than working on general ed, because general ed is a repetition of the K through 12 experience in a lot of regards. And if you're going straight into the workforce, start pursuing skills that you think are valuable. If you're going to pick a major at a university, try to pick a major that's going to be interesting to you and valuable to you if possible. That's the best advice that I can give for people like that. And behind all of this is you need to start developing an understanding of how your life arrangement is going to be, how you actually want to live your life. Do you want to be married? You want to have kids? Because if you want to be married and have kids, you're going to need to make a little bit more money than a starving artist. How you want to pursue your art, if you're an artist, how you want to go about paying for that and building up your reputation. All those are things that you have to consider as a young person. That's very difficult to think about when you're 18 and you don't really have a great idea of what you want to do. Most people, when they leave our schooling system, don't have a clear idea of what they are great at and what they should be pursuing. So that's the time when you should be really figuring that out. It's like the 18 to 20 range, and I encourage that. And the last one about joining the military, I didn't talk about joining the military. That's something specific that you have to do. That has also high opportunity costs involved with it, because while you're in the military, and although you are getting paid and you are developing some skills, you're also not doing other things that are more directly applicable in the economy, because the skills you gain in the military are not necessarily ones that you're going to go directly into the economy and apply. They're specific skill sets for that as well. So keep that in mind. I'm going to try to not have too much more on the military side of things, because that's also very diverse, and that's a decision that you'll have to make for yourself as well. But be aware that there is opportunity cost for that. Thanks so much for watching. Please give me your opinions. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I really hope this has been valuable for you. And if this wasn't valuable for you, that's okay too. Maybe it's valuable for someone else, and you can give your perspective as well. I really, really do appreciate it. You guys have a great, great day.